at their convenience, in the privacy of whatever setting that they may have put for themselves.
All right, and still going on with this theme on matters health, we've set the pace in regards to how we can utilize technology in the health sector to lower the cost and also raise the quality. But there's a lot happening in this sector, a lot of innovation and very interesting stuff now. And in the tech world, they call this telehealth. At this particular moment, since we are marrying these two worlds, we have our resident. We call him the tech boss at Standard Media Group, Kelly Boss himself, to give us a brief outlook on what is happening in matters technology and health. Over to you, Kelly Boss.
Well, thank you very much, Noah. And the intention here is to bridge the gap between, the health practitioners and the patients that we have in Kenya, because the percentage is pretty huge, and we'd like to bridge that gap. And if you talk mathematically in terms of maybe our budget.
Okay, Kelly, just a minute. Since you are the boss in this sector, there are quite a number of deliverables that we'll be expecting. When you talk about telehealth, the first thing is, what does that mean? And secondly, how can we lower this particular issue so that it's more applicable and sort of very common? Because when you use very large terms as telehealth, it seems out of touch. It's tele and health a little bit farther. So how can this technology be made accessible to a lot of people, that is the masses, which is very, very critical? And later on, actually, we'll be having a conversation, and this gentleman is already in studio with us, Dr. Victor Ajifa. Thank you very much for making time. He's the lead pharmacist and general manager at Shelf Life Kenya. And they're doing something interesting in regards to the health value chain. Dr. Ajifa, just for starters, I'm meant to understand that you guys are innovating quite interestingly in Africa. You are in Nigeria and you are in Kenya. These are very big markets. First of all, just painting an overall picture before we go back to Kelly in regards to what is happening to matters tech and health. What is the status of healthcare sector and health value chain? Comparing these two countries, how similar are they? How different are they between Nigeria and Kenya?
Yeah, thank you very much, Kip, for having me. It's really good to always be involved in conversations like this, because we, as an organization, we're very keen and interested in using tech to be able to change the way healthcare has been perceived across the continent. As you've rightly said, our operations are across two of the frontier markets on the continent. If you want to think of the frontier market in East Africa, of course, it has to be Kenya, and the same for West Africa is in Nigeria. Just comparing the two markets, or going back to your question, we have in Kenya registered by the Pharmacy and Poisons Board, who are regulators for pharmacy trade in Kenya. There are 6,000 registered pharmaceutical outlets, about 6,000 as per the last census that was done. If you want to compare that or put into perspective for Nigeria, for example, there are about 9,000 registered pharmaceutical outlets, but then they also have what they refer to as drugstores or PPMVs, which account for about another 20,000 of these. And as you would rightly know, 80% of the population of Africa's 1.2 billion population depends on these pharmacies as a first point of contact in terms of pharmacy care. So that helps put into perspective when you want to compare the two countries.
And I know even still on the macro issues, healthcare is one of those elements that it's a sticking point, even when you talk about household finances. Something can happen, somebody gets sick, and all of a sudden, your financial outlook as a household is shifted by healthcare. Now, you are in the pharmaceutical value chain, which is a critical player in this. What is happening there? Why is affordability an issue for African households? Why is medicine so expensive?
Yeah, it all goes back to the bottom line, access to capital. When you look at healthcare spend, globally, pharmaceuticals account for at least 50% of what you spend on healthcare. And one of the key things or drivers in terms of pharmacy, price of pharmaceuticals is in terms of like its accessibility in the country. In Kenya, for example, we have 54 local manufacturers, right? And the pharmacy board has about 2,000 pharmaceutical products that are locally registered. If you want to compare that to a first world country like in the US, there are about 200,000 individual molecules that are registered. So like you can just see the difference there in terms of like gaps of the need. So the country still depends a lot on importation of pharmaceutical products. And obviously, like with all macroeconomic conditions, that's evidently as well affects the price of the products.
So is one of the low-hanging fruits in regards to lowering the cost of medication across this continent, finding ways to make our own drugs within our own jurisdictions?
Absolutely, that's one. But then there's also a lot of work that can be done in terms of thinking about how we re-strategize the supply chain. There's a lot of things that can be optimized from the pharma supply chain to increase value and also reduce cost. And at my organization, that's like one of the things we are really focused on. We want to see how we use technology and data as competitive tools to redefine how pharma value chain is being perceived on the continent. And with that, able to like reduce cost, increase accessibility, but then also increase quality of the products that are reaching the patients at the end of the value chain.
All right. Now, talking about what you guys are trying to introduce, paint for me a picture in regards to the normal value chain as it stands, or as it has been traditionally. What are the challenges in this value chain, and how are those challenges trickling down to me and you, the normal Mwananchi?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So when you look at the traditional pharma relationship, it starts with the manufacturing, right, of the pharmaceutical product. So that can either be done locally or it's done internationally, right? So depending on where it's done, the next tier there is either an importer, so that's for products that have been manufactured overseas. So they have what we refer to as like importers or market authorization holders, and these are basically like entities that are responsible for bringing those products or those molecules within the jurisdiction. So they are like the first point of contact in country. In instances wherein we have local manufacturers, of course, they will be like the first point of contact because they already manufacture the products within the country. So from those importers or local manufacturers, as the case may be, the next tier there is the wholesalers or distributors. So they do not manufacture, but then they have access directly to these manufacturers, either through their market authorization holders, or in the case of like local manufacturers, again, they can directly access them. And from there, they are able to like buy in bulk, and then they, of course, sell now to on a wholesale to retailers or like hospitals or clinics who usually buy in bulk. And then, of course, the hospitals, clinics, as the case may be, will now have like direct access to the patients who are the bottom line of the supply chain.
Okay, and I like that connection because it's quite a lengthy value chain. Now, in regards to the interventions in that picture that you've painted for us. I know when it comes to importing, especially tech is a good amalgamator, sort of bringing and making sure that all these elements are synchronized and bring sort of efficiencies in that regard. First of all, the lack of efficiency between these segments that you've mentioned, how does that impact on cost?
Absolutely, that's a good question. So, I mean, as I've described from that lengthy chain, there's a lot of things that can be optimized. And that's how we come in as an organization. What we've done is that we've taken components of that supply chain. And when I say components of the supply chain, you're thinking of like the sourcing, right? Like how the product source. You're thinking of like the planning. How much of those products do you need, right? You're talking about the inventory management. Once you've decided how much of those products you need and you've gotten them into your facility, how do you manage them optimally to ensure that you're able to like retain your cash or like get the best value out of your cash. And then of course, evidently there's the financing part. So what we've done as an organization is that we've taken all of these components, these 4 components of the pharmaceutical value chain, we've bundled it together, and then we white label it and provide it as a service. We've seen this happen in a lot of industries, not just pharma. If you go to the FMCG, companies like P&G, Procter & Gamble, even Carrefour, Coca-Cola, they've used this model. So we've bundled all of these things. We say you outsource it to us, and we provide it for you as a service. So in the essence, the pharmacist or the pharmacy manager at the hospital or at the retail pharmacy in the estate does not have to worry about like what's the quantity of the inventory, because mostly I'm a pharmacist myself. I did business after business management after pharmacy school, but in my pharmacy training, I was taught things like pharmacology, I was taught things like pharmaceutics, I was taught things like clinical pharmacy. So I do not essentially have that background knowledge of running a business optimally. And this is why most businesses fail. So we came in and we said, how do we take care of all of these things and then leave the pharmacist to just take care of the patient, right? And with that, we've seen that we're able to like cut costs, we're able to like reduce expiries, we're able to like ensure that more products are available for the pharmacist on the shelves, and in essence, they're able to like make those products available to the patients. And when the patient comes to the pharmacy, you're not, as we locally say, selling hakuna.
Yes, yes, and that's a huge problem, especially I know you guys have done, you've analyzed data across the industry. You know, some of the most requested for drugs in these 2 markets that you operate in. And sometimes you go to the pharmacy, you ask for drugs and you're told, oh, that one is not there. And you're sick. Now you're starting to ask yourself, what am I supposed to do in this particular situation? So I think we want to go for a short break. When we come back, we still have Kelly Boss to give us now the specific tech applications, and thereafter look a little bit deeper into these interventions and also how you guys are utilizing data, because data is powerful and we can harness it to change the healthcare landscape in Kenya. So we take a short break right here on Business Today. Remember, the conversation is matters to do with your health. How can you make sure that you're able to afford the medicine? At the same time, it is available and the quality is maintained. Business Today takes a break. We return with more.
KTN News. Get the whole story.
This February, tunakupenda